Right, let's hit play. So we've got 4 angles altogether. We'll go through them all and we'll pick out a couple of things to work on. And we'll have a little look at some of the things that are good as well. So first sort of angle is above the water. And you're pretty good here. You got like a nice recovery. So you've got like a nice high elbow. Classic kind of swimmer's recovery going on there. Clear of the water. And you're going in fingertips first, which is good. That's what we want.
Yeah.
All good. Other arm, same. Nice high elbow over the top. And again, you can see you're going to go in fingertips first. Yeah. So all good. So most of the stuff with your arms above the water is good. Head position when you're breathing, also pretty good. Not lifting it too high. You can see you got one goggle lens touching the water.
Worked on that
all looks pretty good. Only thing we don't see, which we might want to see a little bit of, is your feet being a bit higher in the water.
Yeah.
So we'll see that better when we get to the underwater view.
Yeah.
But you've clearly got a little bit of an angle going on there.
Yeah.
We'll investigate that more when we go down. But most stuff on this angle that I would normally look at is pretty good. Get the wrong notes. Yeah, so no issues from this angle. Alright, we're going to go from above next. And there's a few things we normally spot from above. First thing is like alignment, so making sure we're as straight as we can be.
Yeah.
And if we look at your legs first, they're not like pools, which is good. And they stay pretty close together. There's the odd occasional time when they go a bit wide, but I wouldn't worry too much about that. I think you're pretty aligned through the back end of your stroke. Front end though, definitely got a few bits to work on. And this is quite interesting that you mentioned shoulder issues before, right? So this is what normally causes shoulder issues in swimming, is when someone enters their hand, but it crosses over in front of their head. So if we watch a couple of yours, you see there. So you're coming, ideally, we're going to be like in line with our shoulders. But you're definitely coming over into that middle, and all that does is it means there's more strain on your shoulder, and then when you start to pull the force through it, it's not great for your shoulders. Also not great for our swimming because it's not as aligned as it should be. But it does also, it just thought it was worth mentioning with your, you're saying when you swam more before, you can see the difference, that it kind of crosses over. So both arms want to enter a little bit wider. So I use a drill called 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, where you're going to think about them being here. What you find, you feel like you're out here, in reality you probably move about that far, and hopefully 11 and 1 sticks them in that position is where we want to be, really. So that is your first thing that we can kind of pick out to work on, is a little bit wider hand entry on both sides. 2 bonuses: 1, it'll make your stroke a little bit more aligned, and 2, it'll stop you getting any shoulder problems should you start swimming a bit more. Right, let's go under the water. Exciting bit. So first thing we'll look at here is your legs, and for your speed you've got a little bit sinky legs. So if we look at kind of your average body position compared to the lane rope, we are a little bit sinky at the back. And I think for you, there's 2 things causing this. One is your kick is all right, but you could probably just kick a tiny little bit more effort. And it's a sweet spot because you don't want to do so much that it knackers you out and you end up blowing.
I do more than at the moment than I've ever done, and it does.
And there's a fine line between all of a sudden you start using some big muscle groups doing that, and you can get tired. But I think you might be able to get away with a little bit more to close that body position up and bring them up to the surface. The other thing, the other flip side way of thinking about that is if you do lots of leg kick practice, so let's say with some fins on and work on it, you could probably then do the same effort kick you are now, but it'll be better kick, if that makes sense, if you'd worked on it a bit. So working on some kick will help with that, and then you don't necessarily need to kick harder or more. Might be the same effort, but it'll be a better kick going on to lift your legs up. So that's the first part of getting them up. Second part is to do with your head. So when you're swimming along, you look quite far forwards, so you're kind of looking about there. You could drop that a little bit. And if you lower your head a little bit at the front, it will help balance. If you think like seesaw motion, a little bit of pushing your head down helps lift your legs up really good, because it will kind of like balance your body weight out a bit. So we'll just watch for a few breaths. Kind of textbook like front crawl position is like 45 degrees, so it'd be like there. I reckon you're looking a touch in front of that, but if we need to look a little bit lower to get those legs to come up, it's worth the effort, really. So we could try dropping your head position a little bit. So far we have got crossing over hand entry and a little bit of body position / head position. Alright, and our third thing to work on is going to be to do with your pull. So we'll watch a couple of arm strokes here. So like I said, let's watch this right arm. So good entry going in here, fingertips first. Reach forwards, all good. when we start the pull, the first thing ideally we want to do is drop our fingertips a little bit so that we start pushing water towards our feet rather than towards the bottom of the pull. If you watch yours here, you see how that hand is still kind of like flat there. So at the moment you're probably pressing like there, so down rather than that way. Watch back through, still a little bit flat, and only really about here do you start to angle water towards your feet. Then the rest of the pull is good. That's all right there.
Still quite low, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's pushing all right there, and if you watch it all the way to here, it's still good there. So like the back end is fine. Let's watch this left hand. Does the same thing. In fingertips first, reaches forwards, that's good, but then this elbow starts to drop a little bit. And like fingertips are higher than your wrist, which is not what we want. So you can see you end up in like that position. Ideally, we're going to be in that position. The other way. And then you can just see through this start of the pull, you end up using quite a lot of energy to just push towards the bottom of the pull. And again, coming back to body position, pressing down there, lifts you up and sinks you down there. You got good knowledge there. Most people wouldn't figure that out. But
I don't know why. I feel like I kind of rush it at the front.
So that is another thing with front crawl pull, is that front bit wants to not be rushed, because that's our moment when we get hold of the water, turn it to the right direction, and only then you want to start to like put the umph in. A lot of people rush that first bit and end up just putting effort in that's not really generating going forwards. It's kind of like
just upsetting your balance more than actually any propulsion.
So we'll just watch for a few of these, but you can get the general gist. Is I would say for you, the easiest way to fix it would be like as you go in here, try and reach a little bit deeper. So that's naturally going to end up with you, let me use my little green tool. If you reach a little bit deeper, hopefully that's going to end up with you being a bit more in that position. So you're kind of setting yourself up to start. A lot of people, when they reach forwards, end up going up a bit, and then you end up with that hand position you've got. So if you angle it down a bit, you're already giving yourself a better chance of starting. And then it's just kind of being conscious of this bit, that we want to drop our fingers and have our elbow up as we go through. Alright, that's it on things to work on. So crossover hand entry.
I haven't been doing today, which I had worked on when I've been in the pool, is working on more of a catch up on the hands. I don't know whether you think that's a good thing to do.
So it's an okay drill to use.
It's slowed that.
So
it feels like I get more of a sweep with the hand.
It's good for teaching people to pull well.
Right.
But the downside is what you're doing, which is when someone wakes out in front, the elbow tends to sink down rather than going in and pulling. Like the most efficient front crawl is always going to be continuous. So it's like one stroke leading straight into the other. Catch up is okay as a drill. I tend not to give it to people. Because it does get you to kind of slow down and do a good stroke and like pull nicely. But the downside is you end up with that pause. And when we pause, that means we're slowing down. There's not an arm pulling basically. And it just tends to be the time when people start to drop that elbow. If you do catch up, most people end up doing that.
So it's all one stroke at a
time,
time,
exactly.
Whereas it just sort of feels like, I don't know, it just feels more in propulsion than it does in...
I mean, I was a swimmer when I was younger, and God knows how many lengths of catch-up I must have done as a kid, because it was like the drill, but it tends to get used a little bit less these days because of the kind of pause and dropping elbow problems that it sometimes creates. That's all the stuff you need to work on. I've got one more angle, but we'll watch it just because we filmed it. We might see a few things that we'd already seen, so you can probably see your crossover hand entry going on a little bit there. See a little bit coming out. And then also at this point we can see your palm. In someone pulling right, we'd see the back of their hand because their fingertips would be dropped and they'd be starting to pull through a bit. Just wanted to also have a little look at your breathing, but you're good. You got a nice exhalation the whole time, your head's down.
I'm gasping most of the time, so I can't wait to get it
Paul,
out.
Paul was holding his breath quite a lot on here, so
I mean, I don't know whether you noticed the first length out I did bilateral breathing, and then I switched
quickly
to
revert.
unilateral. But, I mean, I have played around with trying to swim to the right, breathe to the right. Which is something I used to do. Where I made the switch, I don't know. But and now, you know, it's one of those where once you always breathing to the right feels so cack-handed. I try to do something left-handed with the right-handed person.
So my general thoughts on that is try and mix it up when you're doing easy swimming. But there's nothing wrong with when, like you're doing a 400 time trial here, there's nothing wrong with switching to one side. And if you watch all the best triathletes and swimmers, they all pretty much breathe one side. They probably spend hours in training breathing both to have a nice symmetrical stroke.
But then when they get into the business,
exactly, you need air essentially, don't you? Right, let's save this.